All right, folks, welcome back to Swift on Sundays. I hope you are looking forward to today's project. A number of folks have demanded it, requested it, pleaded for it. Today we're making our very first macOS app on Swift on Sundays. From scratch, of course, that's the way these things work. If you're new here, my goal is to try and build a complete app from scratch. You can see exactly how something works, starting with a blank canvas. Obviously, in practice, as we get past 20, 30, however many projects, we might move on to techniques or more specific things. But for now, I'm really loving the apps approach, building real things all the time. So yes, today the plan very much is to build a complete macOS app as fast as we can. I think about 60 minutes or so. Now, obviously, many of you have not written a macOS app before. This will be your very first time seeing macOS development. And so I've tried really hard to pick out a project that I think you'll find easy enough. It has to be an hour long anyway, so it's a pretty small project. But it has to be one particularly that you can look at and say, yes, that is very, very similar to iOS. So as an iOS developer, if you have some intermediate iOS development skills, you should feel very comfortable building this program in macOS. Now, obviously, helpfully, Xcode, Interface Builder, Auto Layout, and of course, Swift itself are totally shared, right? Those things work identically on macOS as they do on iOS. So if you have those skills already, you'll be just fine porting those across to iOS. Now this time, the project I want to build, and like I said, it's about an hour, I hope, if not less, all being well. It's going to be a menu bar app, which is an app that sits in the menu bar of macOS, the top bar, it's like the Apple and your Xcode menu and similar. It lives up there alongside the time and Wi-Fi. And what I'm going to do is we're going to build an app that helps folks transform text. So, for example, we'll make it do 4 different types of text transform. One will be what's called ROT13, ROT13, which is like the world's simplest encryption algorithm. It replaces letters in a 26-letter alphabet by offsetting them 13 places. So A becomes something down the line, 13 places down, and B becomes something else down the line. So it's actually symmetric. So if you put something through a ROT13 and do it again, you get the original text back. So it's not hard to decrypt, but it's useful because of things like spoilers. You could post spoilers with it by saying, here's the secret ending to the new Avengers film, and anyone can decrypt that with no password required. It's obviously ROT13, so it's easy enough. That's one thing we're doing. Another thing we're doing is to make similar text. So you'll paste in some sort of text like, who can give me some advice on Bitcoin? And if you tweet that, usually, you'll get trolls and bots and who know what scamming you with adverts for Bitcoin because they want to make money off you, basically. This similar text filter, what it's going to do is it's going to replace the letters in your text with letters that look the same, but aren't the same. They're similar. They're visually identical. They can't tell the difference, but they're not the same letters. And so any bots watching Bitcoin or any bots watching popular topics won't spam you with crap because they won't spot the text. It's different text underneath the hood. So we'll do that as well. We're also going to do Strikethrough. I use that all the time. I'll do Strikethrough checks for some jokes, whatever. I have to go through a Strikethrough website or whatever and do my text there and copy it from there into Twitter, for example. What we're going to do is we're going to add that as an option here. So you can type in your text, it will strike through your text. You can then paste that into Twitter for your hilarious joke. And finally, we're going to do a more complex one called Zalgo. Zalgo text is extremely complicated Unicode text. Looks evil on the thing. Oh, that's one of the dogs. We've got 2 dogs now, by the way. That's one of the dogs coming in to have a look at what's going on. I'm not sure which dog that is, mind you. Zalgo text is very interesting because you have characters above and below and in between. It looks evil text. We're going to cover all 4 of these things over the next hour or so in this simple thing. It's a nice, simple project that will show you how great it is to get into macOS. It's not hard. It's so similar. Of course, the language is the same. I've chosen components that are very similar to on iOS, so I hope you'll be able to dive in super easily. That's a good question. So in any replacement like this, it will mess up people with VoiceOver, guaranteed. You know, Rot 13 is completely meaningless to them. It'll be completely awful to read. It'll be RTFQ, MP, whatever. Same for similar text. Some text perhaps is better. I'm not sure. I don't know. I have to ask a voiceover user for that one. Zalgo will be hideous because it's designed to be hideous. It's hideous for us too. The regular sighted people can see that as hideous as well. And the last one was Strikethrough. Again, it might read that correctly, and you'll see how. So these things work using Unicode, and I suspect that combining characters like the ones we'll be using will be ignored, but I don't know. Anyway, so that's what we're going to make. It's a nice, simple, useful, real project that shows you how great macOS is with Swift. I want to remind you, if it's your first time doing a Swift on Sunday session, please remember my simple rules. First, no harassment or abuse. There are moderators now watching very carefully. Thank you very much, moderators. They will give you an instant ban if you troll, abuse, discriminate, harass people, whatever, in the chat window. Please don't do it. There is no warning. You're just booted straight away. Second, if you have on-topic questions about what I'm doing right now on the screen, ask me right now. There's obviously a delay of like 20 seconds till I see it, whatever. But ask me straight away. I'll see it and I'll answer it so we can keep the flow sensible, so it's explain what's going on. Nearly always, if you've got a question, you'll find someone has the same question. So don't be afraid to ask questions. If it's off-topic, though, about anything else imaginable, what do I think about Flutter, what do I think of React Native, where do babies come from, whatever it is, keep those to the end of the session. Otherwise, it's just a massive, constant speed bump for my brain. It hurts. So please don't do that. That's all the rules. That's the entire lot. So I'm going to go ahead and hopefully share my screen. Let's see. Let's launch Xcode. Oh, yeah. Just to be clear, I'm using Xcode 10.2, which hopefully you are as well. Swift 5. It shouldn't affect it much in this project. I think there's no special Swift 5 stuff in this project. But if you have Swift 4.2, be prepared for, I don't know, we're going to find out, I guess. Right. Let me try and share my screen. Bada boom. Okay. So you can see a chat window. You can see Xcode. You can see everything looking nicely there. Right, so we're going to make a new project. So please choose create a new Xcode project in Xcode. And when this big old window here appears, please choose macOS, Cocoa App, and then press next. Like that. And I'll call this thing Text Transformer. Like that. There are various options with macOS apps. You'll see, storyboards or not, coordinator or not, whatever. Just leave storyboards on. The rest we don't really care about. Just select the rest. This is just called Text Transformer for Swift with storyboards. Press next, and your desktop's fine. Okay. So just like iOS, macOS uses storyboards extensively. So we'll start with our storyboard, get our UI design right. I'll open main.storyboard now. And what you'll see is these things have a main menu, they've got a window controller, and they've got a view controller. Unhelpfully, and this really confuses folks, the view controller is not the thing that has view controller written in big letters. That is not the view controller, that's the window. This at the bottom in blue right now, that's the view controller. What this big text here means is there is a view controller inside it. It's embedding the view controller inside the window. That's what it means. It's not helpful, I agree. It's a bit silly, in fact, but we are rather stuck with it. Now, in this program, we're not going to have windows. Windows are great for, Xcode, for Safari, for iTunes, whatever it is. But in this program, we're not going to have windows. We want to have a menu bar application up in this bar in the top corner, where you can see OBS and Tunnelbear and stuff up here. I want to put it up there. So I'm going to go ahead and select this window controller in the document outline here and just delete it all. Get rid of the whole thing. We don't need windows here. Instead, we just want this view controller. And because we want to create that in code, rather than having it made through our storyboard, we need to give this thing a storyboard ID. So go ahead and choose the identity inspector. And for its storyboard ID, I usually use the class name, so view controller in there. So we can now reference that in code and say, hey, give me a storyboard, load view controller from a storyboard so we can start showing it on the screen. So our entire UI is going to be inside this view controller here. That's all we're going to do. And at runtime, we're going to show that back in a little sort of pop-up balloon, similar to if you see, like open up like Tunnel Bear here. You see this balloon appears here, that kind of thing for our UI. So we need a few controls to make that happen. One's going to be some text for the users to type into, whatever one they write on their Twitter. One will be a segmented control, saying what kind of text transformation should happen. Do I want ROT13, similar text, Zalgo text, whatever. Another will be another text field with the output of the transformation, so they can see what it's going to look like. And finally, I have a little copy button, which will put it onto the pasteboard, so they can then paste it into wherever they want to put their stuff. So let's start laying that out. I'll use this document outline area. Here, we're going to add a text field. Just like in iOS, you will see there are text fields and text views. So I'm going to use text field, that's a single line version, and just drag it out roughly to the right place. It's not going to be exactly the right place, just close enough. Make it the full width of our view controller. Then do another text field further down with a bit of a gap. Then a segmented control in between, like that. And finally a button. Now in macOS, there are lots of kinds of buttons. You can see inline button, retest button, disclosure button, help button. There are so many of these things. We just want the regular push button, like that. Drag out this thing and put it next to the second text field, like that. Boom. Okay. Those are the things we need in our layout. Now, obviously, we want to make sure they're the right size, so we need some auto layout constraints for that. And in this case, our constraints are super easy because we're going to space things out equally across the board. So I'll make sure this top text field, I'll control drag from there, diagonally up and left, and we're going to add, hold down shift and add leading, top, and trailing. So it'll pin that side across the board. And that is constraints complete. For segmented control, that'll come directly below the text field. Now, for this one, I want to make sure it has 4 segments inside it, because we have 4 transformations, ROT13, similar text, Strikethrough, and Zalgo. So I'll give it 4 of those things now. So it has segments 4. For distribution, I'll change fit to fill equally, so it'll fill all the space it has going. And I'll provide labels for each of the segments, just like you do in iOS. So label 1 is ROT13. Label 2 is going to be similar. Label 3 will be strike. And label 4 is going to be Zalgo. And now we'll add some constraints for that. So this one I will control drag to the left and say leading and trailing, plus the vertical spacing to the text field above it, like that. So this text field is top, leading, trailing. The segmented control is leading, trailing, plus vertical to the text field. Our second text field, this is going to be leading to the container, trailing to the button, and then bottom to container, and vertical spacing to the segmented control. So I'm positioning it with exact constraints vertically. Now, if you can now see, the text field has a constraint to the top, the segmented control has a constraint to the text field, second text field has a constraint to the segmented control and to the bottom. So we've got a full set of vertical constraints now. And what will happen is that will actually make sure our view controller has an exact size. You know, if this was a window, you couldn't resize the window because it's got to match up our exact auto layout constraints. It'll always make sure they validate exactly correctly. For the button, we're going to say you have trailing constraints to the container and you vertically align to the text field. So whatever that is, keep moving with it. And those are our constraints. Now, obviously, it looks terrible on the screen. Now comes the important part. We're going to hand edit them to make sure they all have the constant value of 20. So it's 20 on every possible spacing around the place. So it looks really consistent and precise. So for our text field, you can see it's trailing 20, leading 20, top 20, bottom 19, nope, 20. Semantic control, we have trailing 300, nope, trailing 20. Leading 20, good. Bottom 42, nope, bottom 20. And then top 20, great. For the text field at the end, we have 20 there. We have 1, 2, 4 next, that should be 20. See the window shrink down because it's exactly constrained. We have trailing 2, 2, 3, I made that trailing 20. And for the button, we have trailing 72. I'll do trailing 20. So those are our auto layout constraints. Now it's kind of muffed up the sizing of our semantic control because, you know, lol, IB. Let's see if I can get it to do any better than that. Fill equally. Go on, you can do it, lads. No, let's not have that. Yeah, occasionally you'll find that it adds fixed sizes for stuff. Yeah, fixed 32. There you go. No. No. And no. There we go. So it's scaling them now equally rather than having a fixed size for some and not for others. This works a lot nicer, I think. But now you can see our layout looks pretty precise, right? It's nicely spaced out on every edge. If you want to futz with it some more, fine, fill your boots. But that's enough layout for here in this particular thing. Question from Bharath Raj Kumar. Difference between vertical baseline and vertical spacing. So it's down to Apple's love, deep, deep love of text, in my understanding. The baseline is when you want to have the base of your text before descenders, before letters like P or G or Y or Q, whatever. That's the baseline. Where A sits on a line, where C sits on a line, that's your baseline. And everything else extends off that. So you can get text aligning perfectly. I don't think I've ever used it, mind you. So I don't want to use verticals just fine. Anyway. So we now have our rough layout looking good. We'll make a few small changes here. This text field, this is going to be the output text field, the transformed text. And that thing shouldn't be editable, otherwise it's confusing. So I'll select that thing, go to its properties, and I'm going to deselect enabled. So just some text that will be shown in there, but it won't be selectable by the user. For this button here, it says button right now. I'll make that thing say copy. So that's what I'll put things onto the pasteboard. Next up, we need some connections, of course, make this thing actually really work. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the assistant editor. And you'll see view control down here. You'll see it's very, very similar to iOS. It's an NS view controller rather than a UI view controller, but there's still Viewdidload here. I'm going to drag out connections for some of these things. We can read them at runtime. So for our top text field, I'll drag out a connection called input. For the segmented control, I'll drag one out called type. And for the last text field, I'll drag one out called output. And this copy button, this thing doesn't need a connection because it's just going to, it doesn't need an outlet, sorry, because we haven't got to change it, right? It's a response to an action only. We haven't got to read it any other way. Now, in terms of action stuff, when the user types into this text field, we want to know it's changed. So we can immediately update the output, right? To do that, just like in iOS, you would drag a control lag from there to your view controller and make it the delegate of your text field. So now when things have happened, we'll be told what's changed. Correcting me, what does NS stand for, please? It stands for next step, which was a old, crikey, 25-year-old-ish system, old anyway, which Steve Jobs worked on with his team at Next. That was then acquired by Apple and became the foundation, literally foundation, for macOS. So a lot of the APIs are building on that. You'll see NS in lots of places. It used to be in more places too, but Swift removed a lot of them over time, like NS number and similar. NS decimal is just decimal these days. Anyway, we have input, we have output, we have type, we've got our delegate. We need some actions. One for when this segmented control is changed, and one for when this copy button's pressed here. So I'm going to go ahead and control drag from the segmented control down to like line 28, have an action, and I'll call this thing type changed, and press connect. And for the button, I will control drag from there and say copy to pasteboard. Boom. Okay. Beautiful. So that is our layout. At this point, we are done with IB. So I'm going to go ahead and kill the assistant editor and return to viewcontrol.swift full screen so we can see exactly what's going on here. It's time to write some code. Let's make Xcode a little bit bigger so we can see a bit more. There we go. Fantastic. So the first thing I'm going to do is write some really simple placeholder methods for each of the 4 text transformations we plan to do, just so we can see it all working together as a simple application. So we're going to say, make some space below, copy to pasteboard, we'll say func rot13. This thing will take some sort of input string and return a string. Now we could, of course, modify the input text field here, directly in line. We could say, hey, do rot13, put that into input directly. But that's much, much harder to test. Broadly speaking, you want to make functions that take some value and return some value. Pure functions if possible. It's easier. So here, we're going to use that. We're going to say return rot13, then the input string. To send back the input with the word rot13 in front of it, just to prove this is all working correctly. And we'll do the same thing several times over for similar, for Strikethrough, and for Zalgo. So that's similar, and similar, and strike, and strike, and Zalgo, and Zalgo. Beautiful. So it just passes in, this output is the input with the word of its transformation in front of it, just to prove it's all working correctly. And with that done, we can now write our type changed method, which is called when the segmented control has been moved around. So we can say switch type our segment control dot selected segment. I mean, it's almost the same as iOS. iOS would say selected segment index, macOS selected segment, but it's gettable. It's totally gettable. If we are case 0, so if we're on the rot13 option, we'll do output dot string value. We say string value rather than text because macOS has a rather advanced system of bindings behind the scenes, which lets you have integer values and double values being formatted nicely or automatically. We're not using it here. We'll just put in the text directly by saying string value is going to be the result of calling rot13 with input.string value. I will copy and paste that a few times. We'll say 1, 2, and then default case. So that's going to be 1, that's 2, and that is default. And we'll change that to be similar, Strikethrough, and Zalgo text. Boom. So that means whenever that segmented control is changed, the output will be updated. We also want to change the output when it's typed something into the text field. Now we control dragged from the text field to our view controller inside IB, and that makes the connection. So we'll be told when things happen. But as you'll know, same in iOS, it doesn't update Xcode's code completion system. You can't start using methods easily unless you hand type them all. You have to hand add the delegate to your class to get the Xcode code completion system updated. So we're going to say this thing is an NS view controller, but conforms to an NS text field delegate. So it wants to respond to text changes happening in there. And the method will get called on us when that control text changed is called control text did change. Boom. The text field's changed. What do you want to do? And in our case, all we want to do really is just call type changed again and again and again. Because that same method is being called from our segmented control, of course, but other things can call it as well. We want to call that thing from our text being changed as well. So we'll just say type changed. This needs a sender who's asking the type to be changed. When it's called from the semantic control, it will be the semantic control. Here, though, I'll just do self. Our view control is asking for it to be changed. Doesn't really matter who calls it, as long as someone does. And the third time we want type change to be called, one is when the semantic control is changed. Second one is when a text is changed. The third one is when the app launches in the first place. So yeah, it happens, straight away. So we'll say up here, type changed self. Just update it immediately like that. So that is basically all the code required to get our view controller up and running. However, it doesn't make it show on the screen. That requires some more work. Now, by default, apps in macOS, when they're run, they'll appear in the dock down here as an app that's running right now. We don't want that here. We want our app not to appear in the dock and instead to appear up here in the menu bar. And that's 2 steps. You can have either of them or both of them. It's down to you. We're going to say both those things. Don't show in the dock and do show in that menu bar at the top. To hide at the bottom, you go to Info plist, add a row, and look for the type in here. Go on, open up. You can do it. Come on. Please. No. Excellent. Come on. Give me the drop-down menu, please. Excellent. Xcode's not going to give me a drop-down menu full of options to add. Hurrah. That's going to make things rather challenging. Should we try and do it again, Xcode? Give you another chance. Add a row. Oh, excellent. This thing is not doing anything at all. In fact, it's all doing nothing at all. Ah, brilliant. Nothing at all is working. Okay, I might just quit Xcode and relaunch Xcode because clearly it's not happy. Let's try that again. Come on, Xcode, you can do it. There's text transformer. Does like doing that in the wrong screen. There's plist. Ah, that's all grey now. That's better, isn't it? It's actually loading now. No, it's just dead. Great. Okay. That's going to be rather challenging because now without the drop-down menu, we've got to try and do it by hand. Oh, I can do it. I can type it in and get completion. Okay. So what we're looking for is application is agent. There you go. That's completely useless code. Thank you very much. Boom. That's the one you want. And an agent is the macOS term for don't show me in the dock. That's all it means. In this case, our answer is going to be... I can't change that one either. Yes. Oops. Yes. Come on. You can do it. Yes. Great. Okay. Normally, it's not too hard to get that to work, but obviously it's decided to be very unhappy with me right now. Anyway, you want to have application is agent, yes. Which means when the program runs, it will not appear down here in the dock. In fact, right now, it won't appear anywhere at all. It's an agent, meaning it's a background service. I'm using Xcode 10.2 Marconi. It won't appear anywhere at all. It'll run as a background service, like watching the system or doing whatever you want to do, rather than appearing anywhere, which you might want sometimes. In this app, though, we want to make it appear in that menu bar. So to do that, we're going to add some code to our app delegate. This is the only thing that exists when our application launches. Everything else, our view controller won't be created. There's no window anymore. It's just our app delegate doing all the work right now. And we're going to make this thing do just enough work to bootstrap our view controller. Now, in macOS land, this whole thing up here is controlled using an NS status bar. We want to add things to that using NS status items. So we'll say in here, we have a property, which is let status item equals an NS status bar dot system dot status item with a length. How wide do you want your status bar item to be? In our case, we don't want to specify a width. We want macOS to figure out the right width for us. And to do that, you say NS status item dot variable length. Make it fit according to its contents. So it'll measure the size of its icon or its text and use that for the width of this thing. If you have questions about jailbreaking ask at the end. I don't care, Jabber. You can ask somebody else. But don't ask us anyway. But ask them at the end, please. Not in the talk, please. It's too confusing otherwise. Anyway, you'll see here, application did finish launching, just like in iOS. It looks a bit different, perhaps. Got a notification instead. But the concept's the same. It's finished launching. What do you want to do? In our case, we're going to use this space to configure our status item. We're going to say our status item, look at its button, and give it a title of some string. And to be shown up there to have whatever words you want. Now this could be an icon if you want to, have an image if you want to. I'm going to use some text instead, a title text. And for this, I'm going to use a particular one. I looked through earlier to try and find a nice letter A I liked. And this one here is a nice sort of font looking A, or this one here. These are both mathematical symbols. There's this mathematical bold italic small a. So I'll choose that one there. Question from Andy Warwick. Is the variable length live? Yes, it is. It will change automatically as you change the text inside there. So it actually works very nicely. Ravi, I'll happily answer questions about auto layout later on. That's the title of our thing. If you want to do an image instead, that's fine. You can just do, .image and provide one in there if you want to, but title's fine here. Now, to make this thing respond to a click, which you want to do, you give it a target and an action. So I'll say our status item has a button with the target of self. Tell us when it's tapped. And status bar, that's our item, .button, .action equals #selector, some method to call. In this case, I'm going to use one called show settings. We haven't actually written that yet. So it's going to show our app settings, our app screen. How do you get the menu showing stuff? That's the emoji menu. It's Control Command Space, like that. You can check anything you want to. Have a thumbs up or a little smiley poo, whatever in there, down to whatever kind of application you like. To your application, do what you like. Anyway, we're going to have to add this method now. And of course, it's done using selector, so we've got to do @obj_c, func, show settings. And this thing, its job is to look inside main.storyboard, find a storyboard view controller with the ID view controller, and create one of those things. Then wrap it inside a popover view, so it can appear in a little balloon, place that next to our status item, and then present it. That's all it's got to do. After that, the view controller is in charge. This is just enough work to bootstrap our view controller. So, first we say, let storyboard equals, question from Rabin, what is #selector? So, it's a way of letting Swift verify at runtime this method exists. And it only exists for old code, bluntly. Modern Swift code would use a block or a closure instead. It's for the target action thing. It's all over Objective-C code. So that's UIKit, AppKit, all the old stuff from Apple. It's not great. And I hope if and when the Swift team announce here's a new native Swifty UIKit replacement, declarative UI, XML, who knows what, it's going to ditch target action and selectors entirely and delete Obj-C. That'd be so nice. So nice. Anyway, first get our storyboard. Now you've seen UI storyboard in iOS, on macOS. Scratch out the UI and use NS storyboard. Otherwise, it's exactly the same. We'll say this thing has a name, which is, in our case, main. In the bundle is nil, so our main app bundle. We want to make sure this thing has a view controller. We can typecast as our view controller. So we'll say guard let vc equals storyboard dot instantiate controller with identifier. That'll be our storyboard ID, which is view controller, if you remember. We'll do a conditional typecast to make sure it's safe as question mark view controller. If that fails, which would never happen, but if it does fail, else fatal error, unable to find view controller in the storyboard. Should never happen. It should always be there, but just in case, right? If we're still here, we want to wrap that view controller inside NS popover, which is responsible for showing balloons the kind of which you'll see all over the place in Xcode. Like here, if you edit this breakpoint, a balloon pops out pointing to that. There's an NS popover, this balloon thing, and you can show any kind of view controller inside there. So we'll say, let popover view is an NS popover. Question from Arvid, would passing main as the bundle be equivalent? Yes, it would, but nil's the default. Nil means the main bundle, so that's fine. So make a new popover. We're going to give this thing a content view controller, the thing to show inside the popover view. So we'll say popover view dot content view controller equals our new view controller instance, so VC. We're also going to say popover view dot behavior equals dot transient, which means as soon as they click elsewhere in the screen, on their desktop, wherever, dismiss the popover. Don't leave it hanging around permanently. It's transient. It'll go away as soon as it can, basically. And now for the important part. Popover view dot show this thing on the screen somewhere. Fatal error should crash your app, Alexander. All being well. This wants to know what position it's relative to and which view that's relative to. Now in this case, what we want to do really is say, get the button of our status item and use its bounds for the relative to position. So show it around that view directly. We can do that by saying status item dot button with a sneaky force unwrap dot bounds of status item dot button, again force unwrap, preferred edges, where should it be shown around this thing? And in our case, we're going to show at the bottom edge, which is the max Y part of it. So we'll say dot max Y. Now if you really wanted to be super safe here, you could replace these force unwraps. You could say something like, you know, guard let button is status item dot button else. I don't know, fatal error. Couldn't find status item button. Again, that should never actually happen, but I can see why you might want to do it to be super safe. If you have really strict code review, perhaps at your company, you might want to do it that way. I don't really mind what you do. In our case, we know it's got to be there. We literally just wrote the code to make it happen, so I think it's safe. Anyway, at this point, in theory, we now have enough code to make our app work. So it's now time for the moment of truth. What did I screw up this time? I'm going to sip some wine first before I see this going on. And then press Command R to build and run. Let's find out what went wrong. Did our plist work or not? Let's find out. It's running. Or is it? Okay. So in the dock, we see nothing at all. OBS, you know, Slack, Spotify, whatever. And in the menu bar here, we see our little A. That is the thing we added. When I press on that, all being well, boom, our view controller appears. And it says similar down here, so you can see it's selected. I can go Rot13, Strike, and Zalgo. I'll type some text in here. Example text, updates as we type, and goes through all 4 of them. Okay. I made no mistakes. Not bad. Despite Xcode trying to sync me with that plist problem, it actually all worked first time, which is actually not bad. Okay, so we've kind of made the basic version of our app. Oh, good question from Andy Warwick. Will it work with multiple monitors automatically? Yes, it will work everywhere. That thing will appear on every screen you have connected to your Mac automatically. That's the way all status bar items work in macOS. Anyway, that is the main component of our app done. So next we're going to start by saying Marconi use assertion failure. Yeah, but then if it doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense at all. If you have a assert in here that bails out only in debug mode, what would it do in release mode? You know, what would happen? It would try and create a view controller, but it hasn't got a view controller. It literally makes no sense without fatal error. So I am quite comfortable using fatal error here. If you wanted to, if you want to fail silently, add a return in there. I wouldn't, but you know, it's down to you. Anyway, Let's do. Of course, the question from Robert is limit the number of items that can appear in the menu bar. macOS will start trimming them. It gets aggressive at some points. It starts hiding. I think it prefers to hide menu bar items first. So it'll hide like source control or window perhaps first before it starts hiding these things. But it will intelligently trim things if it has to, obviously, when it runs out of space. But you have to have, you can see I've got a lot of space across here. This is obviously a 5K screen I've got. Stacks of space here. You have to be a real status bar item addict to fill that space fully, I think. Right, back to the project. We're going to start adding some actual transforms here. And I'm going to do these things easiest to hardest. We've got 4 of these things, 4 happening. I'm going to go through easiest to hardest, not left to right. So we'll do the easy one first, which is actually Strikethrough. Strikethrough is really easy to do. Now, Strikethrough, I expect you're familiar with things like NS attributed string, because you can say add a strike format to the text, but it doesn't create real Strikethrough text. It creates real Strikethrough formatted text. So if you're pasting that into Pages or Word or whatever, you would get Strikethrough, so it keeps the formatting. If you paste it into Twitter, Twitter hasn't got any concept of formatting. Twitter's just raw text, so it wouldn't work. You wouldn't get real Strikethrough text. We want real Strikethrough. And to do that, it's actually really easy thanks to Unicode, because Unicode has a concept of combining characters, where you say an A plus a B plus a C actually combine to make a new character. And these are very, very flexible in Unicode. They're used all over the place for things like emoji. Emoji have combining characters everywhere. When you type things like the flag Forbes in the UK, this flag here, emoji, is actually made up of 2 combining characters. National flag identifying G, national identifier B. And when G and B come together as those 2 things, they magically morph into a new thing, which is the UK flag. And we're going to use those to do Strikethrough, real Strikethrough text. And we'll do that now. So in Strikethrough, here, we're going to start by saying we have an output string variable, which is an empty string. Has nothing at all by default. We're going to loop over all the letters in the input string, like that. And for every letter we find, we will append that to our output by saying output.append that letter. So if it has an A, it'll put an A. B, B, C, C, D, D. Append the whole thing to the output. But after that, we're going to append a specific Unicode combining character. There are lots of these on the Unicode Consortium website. You can go read them all you want to. There are a few that really matter. In this case, we're going to use the combining short stroke overlay. A short stroke over the text letter, creating a Strikethrough look. And that has an exact thing. We're going to say output.append, append even. And in Swift, you can do Unicode characters by saying \u and then braces. And inside the braces, you want to provide your Unicode number. And again, there are thousands of these things out there. I'm not going to list them out for you. Go and look them up like I did. Find the one you want to do and add it in here. In our case, that is 0335. That's the combining short stroke overlay that will pass back that letter plus a stroke on top of it. And if I do return here, to do return the output, that should be our first text transformation done. So if I press Command R, we can try it out. And really, I need something like, there we go. I'm going to pull up. Here is Twitter. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and on here, go to our application and type out, I'll do a real message here. So it says like, hello, this is me tweeting live on my YouTube live stream as we build a macOS app. Boom. And if I go to Strike, you'll see immediately, hello, this is me tweeting live on my YouTube channel. That appears with Strikethrough. Every letter now has got a line over it. Now, it's not actual Strikethrough the way we think of it. It's real strikes being applied to every single letter. So you can put that onto Twitter or onto a plain text application. However, this won't work yet because I'm going to put this text on my clipboard temporarily because we haven't made this copy button work. This thing here needs to put this output onto the pasteboard so we can put that into Twitter or somewhere else. So I've put my text here onto the pasteboard. I'm now going to go and make this paste button work, this copy to pasteboard button work here. That thing there, that's where we're going to say, put that output onto the pasteboard for us. And this takes 2 steps in iOS and macOS, one of which seems pointless, but we're stuck with it because of historical reasons, one of which makes sense. The first one is you say ns pasteboard, which is just like UI pasteboard with ns, dot general, so the system-wide pasteboard, dot clear contents. Clear whatever's there already. And you've got to do that before we provide new values. You just do. It's really annoying. If you don't do that, you can write what you want to the pasteboard, nothing will happen. It's unhelpful. Anyway, now we can say ns pasteboard.general.setString. Provide some sort of string value to there. In our case, that will be output.string value, the output of our text field, for type.string. So here's a string, put onto the pasteboard, please. And now for the moment of truth. If I run it again, we should hopefully see A up here. I'll press that, paste in my text again, boom, choose strike, and now press copy. Let's find out if it worked. Where is Twitter gone? Here we go. What's happening? Paste, boom, actual strike through. I'll add a slight clarification for folks who are not watching the live stream, otherwise they'll be very confused indeed. Yes, we're futzing around with strike through text. Sorry. Hello, this is me tweeting live on my YouTube live stream as we build a macOS app. Yes, we're futzing around with strike through text. Sorry, great tweet. There you go, live on the stream. You were here to watch that tweet go out. Anyway, back to actual work here. Let's go ahead and add the next most complicated one, which is a similar text mode here. So again, this is going to do subtle replacements to the text, so it looks the same visually, but it's not the same. So you try and search for it inside, say, a text editor, it won't work. You won't be able to see that text match up. So we'll go ahead and implement this similar method here. Now we start again the same way. Here's some output value, of our output here. This will start as a copy of our input, like that. And we'll apply a series of transformations to this thing. What do we want to change? So we'll say things like output equals output dot replacing occurrences of something with something else. We're going to replace occurrences of A, the letter A, with something that looks just like an A, but is not an A in the way we expect. So again, you want to press Control Command Space to bring up the code completion area for emoji and similar. And you want to type Cyrillic. The Cyrillic alphabet has lots of letters that look like the Latin alphabet, but are not. So if I press this A here, it'll insert an A, and it looks identical. These two things, this A here and this A here, looks the same. But in Xcode, if I press Command F and search for A, you'll see it highlights the A here, and the A here, and the A here, here, but not the A here. That's a different letter in Xcode's eyes. It'll skip right over it. Different entirely. And so it'll stop evil trolls, bots, whatever, from finding your stuff, because they only look for certain strings. It won't find the Cyrillic version of the A, because they're not looking for that kind of thing. You can add as many as you want. Let's do one for E. Again, Control Command Space, Cyrillic. Let's try and find a nice Cyrillic E. There we go. So the Bulgarians are very happy doing doing Cyrillic. Of course they are. Let's do one for I. So I'll press Control Command Space again. Cyrillic. And let's find a nice I. There we go. Boom. Again, it looks identical in terms of the formatting. Let's do another one for O. Boom. Cyrillic. O. These are all lowercase, mind you. I had some uppercase ones as well, so I'll do capital A. Capital A is going to be a Cyrillic. Capital A, different letter still. Capital E, Cyrillic is capital E. There we go. Boom. And there are lots of these. Add as many as you like, quite frankly. I'm not going to add all of them here because it takes too long. There's an S as well. Let's do one more. P, and let's do Cyrillic. P. There's a C, there's a K, there's a B, and there are lots of ways of doing this, like that. Add as many as you'd like. I've added 8, but you can add many, many more. Of course you can. And finally, return that output. So now if I press Command R, we can give it a try now. You probably could thieve some from Greek, but Greek looks slightly different. The Greek alpha, which you've just typed there, Jeepaluk, looks different to the Cyrillic and Latin A. So you can see, visually in the thing, I can see that A is clearly an alpha, not an A. Anyway, here's our A. I type now, what is this Bitcoin? Was it lowercase c Bitcoin? I forget. You speak of. And choose similar text. The output here looks exactly like regular text, but it isn't. If I do a search for A, it does not match the A in what is this Bitcoin. If I do I, it'll match the I in input, but not the I in is. But it looks the same everywhere else. So it's a trivial way of working around those kinds of evil bots. My app is when I click the buttons, not consider typing the text. You probably missed out either control dragging delegate from the text field to your view controller, or you didn't implement control text did change and call type changed. One of those two things. Anyway, so that's half of our transformations done. At the halfway point, I want to say, if you have 10 seconds free of your life, please go ahead and like this video, because it does matter. It's a small thing you can do to help other folks find this video. YouTube ranks up videos where folks like and folks comment and folks share more than other videos. If you are enjoying this video, fine, leave a like. If you hate the video, fine, just write dislike, I don't really care. But at least do something to show that you've watched the video. Do press the like button, and of course subscribe. I've got a great channel full of stuff. Anyway, that is our first two transforms. Next up, we're going to look at probably Zalgo. Zalgo's a fun one to do. Zalgo text is it looks like alien text. It's designed to have like evil is coming kind of text. You often see the words "he is coming" appearing with Zalgo text, and it's done by exploiting a marvelous trick of Unicode, which is these combining characters, things like our short stroke overlay, this thing here. You can add as many as you want to a character, and Unicode's obliged to put them together. And good systems like Twitter or Swift or wherever, macOS, will combine them all together and show what looks like evil text, like Satan's bleeding through your screen as you type the text. And it's actually surprisingly easy to do, thanks to the power of Unicode. So we're going to walk through how to do Zalgo characters here. Now, to do this, really, you need some text to work with. So I've got for you a URL. So I'll bring up my screen in a second. If I paste it into Safari, boom. I'll put it in the chat window as well. If you're watching in the live stream replay later on, you can find this all on GitHub rather than going to my site. That will point you towards Zalgo.json, which is a simple list of Unicode characters that are above the letter. Some are in line with the letter, like over it, like the overlay we had. And some are below the letter. And these are the exact Unicode characters required to reproduce these combining characters. And there are more, but these are more than enough for us to work with here. And what we want to do is take that and put it inside our application. So if you're using something like Safari, you want to press Command S to save that thing. Change the page source rather than web archive, don't use page source, and save Zalgo.json to your desktop somewhere. So you have that JSON file on your desktop you can start working with. I have it already in Finder somewhere, hiding behind this chat window here, I expect. There it is. There's my Zalgo JSON. I'm going to go ahead and drag that into my Xcode project and add it to the target, copy if needed and so forth, and press finish. So it comes into our target like that. Let's put all this stuff back as it was so we can see more easily what's going on. We want to load that into our application, obviously. Now it's JSON, so this is obviously crying out for codable. I've done codable multiple times now in previous Swift on Sundays projects. I've shown you some lovely ways of doing it. If you want to know nice ways of doing codable, go and watch those. We're going to do the quick, shortcut, easy version here. Watch the previous versions for the nice, careful handling of codable and so forth. This way, I'm going to take the shortcuts. This thing will load codable, so press Command N to open a new file. Choose Swift file and call it Zalgo characters.swift, like that. This is going to be a struct, so we'll say struct Zalgo characters conforms to codable. There's an array of characters above, array inline, and array below. So we'll say let above, array of string, let inline, array of string, and let below, array of string. And finally, an initializer. We'll do init. This is going to find the path for Zalgo.json in our bundle. Again, massive short circuit. We're going to say let URL equals bundle.main.url for resource Zalgo with extension JSON force unwrap. That's a short circuit. Let data equals Raphael, thank you very much. I normally allow folks to give dog treats for super chats. Dogs aren't currently here, but there are 2 of them now, so they'll be very hungry for super chats shortly, I expect. Let data equals try force again. I'm going to take shortcuts here. Data with the content of that URL. We'll make a decoder using JSON decoder. And finally, we'll assign the result of decoding that JSON to ourselves to initialize above, inline, and below all at once. We'll say self equals try, exclamation mark again, decoder.decode, Zalgo characters.self from data, like that. Boom. So that'll convert all of Zalgo.json to a single instance called Zalgo characters with all the arrays pre-populated for us to try and use. Fine. We want to do that exactly once, not again, again, and again. So I'll go to Viewdidload.swift and add a property for it. So we'll say up here, underneath our 3 IB outlets, we're going to say let Zalgo characters equals a new Zalgo characters. So it'll load, decode, and initialize, and so forth, all those things into that single property like that with one initializer. And now we can write the Zalgo method. This actually isn't really hard, quite frankly. We'll start again by saying here is lowercase. Here is an empty string for our output, like that. I'll end by saying return output, so it definitely goes back. We now add every letter of our input to the output, just like before with the strikethrough. So we'll do for letter in input, output.append that letter. And now for the important part. We want to add random numbers of characters above, inline, and below. So it's different every time. Every character looks different, right? So we'll say for underscore in 1 through some number. I'm going to do int.random in 1 through 8. So add between 1 and 1, so 1 character, or 8 characters. A random number every time. As that loop goes around, we're going to add every single time output.append Zalgo characters, not lowercase z, Zalgo characters, dot above, dot random element, and this requires a force unwrap, because random element might be called an array that's empty, and if that happens, of course, we'll get nothing back, so it'll be optional. We know it's full of stuff, so I'll happily force unwrap that here. That's the ones above. For the inline, there are fewer of these things. It looks too weird having much over these things, so we'll do 1 to 3, and we'll use the inline ones. And for the below ones, again, we'll do 1 to 8. So it's adding to the string more and more of these above, inline, and below, combining characters, which sounds easy, and it is easy. That's all the code it requires, quite frankly. I would say having 3 force unwraps like that doesn't look ideal. I wouldn't blame you if you added a simple extension to strings for making that a bit nicer. Something like extension string, mutating func, append, stir, optional string. And now say guard let stir equals stir else return, do nothing at all, and then append that string. Because with that in place, you can remove these 3 force unwraps. Because now, if it did return nil, it'll be just ignored like that. So hopefully that will work. I'll press Command R now to build and run our code. We can try some Zalgo text. I'm not going to tweak this one. I don't want to scare folks too much. Let's bring up our menu here. So we have he comes, looks the same. Strikethrough, great. And Zalgo, evil text pops up. I'll press copy and I'll put it into Twitter window. But I won't actually tweet it just yet. So scroll up. There we go. What's happening? Evil's happening. There we go. There you go. So that's what it does. That's exactly what it does. It makes evil, satanic-looking characters. I mean, you could make, Zalgo light, Zalgo medium, Zalgo heavy, whatever you want to. There is actually a wonderful, wonderful Stack Overflow answer, which includes Zalgo text. And it's something like HTML regex. There, because someone answered it with Zalgo, because someone's asking them about, there you go, how do I parse HTML using regular expressions, right? And the response was, you can't do it, it can't be parsed, it can't do HTML, don't do it, and it gets slowly more weird and corrupt, and it ends up being just like he comes with full-on Zalgo text. Anyway, that's Zalgo text right there. It just looks weirdly evil, and it's one of the funny times of using Stack Overflow. But I love the way it ends with, have you tried using an XML parser instead? Because that's the actual right way of solving the problem. Anyway, so that is Zalgo text. I am not going to tweet it because it looks weird. I'll cancel out of that. And go back to Xcode again. And finally, we're going to add one more, which is rot13, which is replacing letters. So there are 13 places off where they should be. So if you imagine, if it was rot1, move it off one place, A will become B, B will become C, C will become D, D will become E, and so forth. Rot13 is useful because there's 26 letters in the English alphabet. And so if you offset by 13 letters, you get a different string. But do it again, it's symmetric. You get the original string back again. Half off, fully off. Every single time. It goes round and round and round. So you can call rot13 again and again and again to encrypt and decrypt something. It's really, really nice. Now this requires a bit of hassle, a bit like Zalgo, because you don't want to do this work again and again and again. It's a pain in the backside doing repeated work. What you want to do is have a rot13 struct that calculates the offset of all its letters once and just reuse those offsets again and again and again. So I'll press Command N, make a new Swift file, and say this is rot13.swift. And inside here, we'll make our rot13 struct. So we'll say struct rot13. The first thing to do is to make a dictionary that maps one character to another character. When I say A, give me back, I don't know, M or something else, right? So here is what it should be. Here's what it now must be with the encrypting taking place. So we'll say private static var key equals character dictionary, like that. It's private, we don't want anyone else to read into it. It's static, so it's made exactly once, never again. Its keys are characters, so here's A, what should that be? And the value is the answer, N, whatever it should be in rot13. Now we're going to make an array of all our uppercase characters. We'll say private static let uppercase equals an array of, let me see if I can get this right, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. That's all of them. And then for lowercase, it is going to be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. I have passed kindergarten. Hurrah for me. Now, what I normally do now is make a trivial a trivial method, a static method that will read a given string and transform it into rot13. So we can reuse it any way we want to elsewhere. So we'll say static func string, pass in a string, which is a string, returns a new string. Now, this thing, the first time it's called, it's going to check whether this key dictionary is empty or not. If it's empty, it's going to go ahead and calculate all the possible rot13s of all letters. So when I say A, give me back N, whatever the correct one is. So it does that once and only once. So we'll say if rot13.key.isEmpty, we've got to do all our work now. So we'll say for I in 0 up to less than 26, rot13.key, our dictionary, we're going to then say rot13.uppercase, or uppercase letter, at the index we're reading. So index 0 will be A, index 1, B, and so forth. So letter B is going to be, or letter A, sorry, going to be the rot13.uppercase of that index plus 13. Move it 13 places down the alphabet. So we ask for A, get back N. We'll find out soon enough what it actually is. Move it down 13 places. But we want to make sure that when we say, give us Z or Y, we don't want to try and read some letter over here, that'll overrun. We want to loop back to the beginning again. So we've got to say I plus 13 % 26. Use modulus to go back round to the beginning as we need to. That's our uppercase there. And our lowercase is the same thing. Lowercase, lowercase, like that. So at this point, here on line 25, we know our rot13 key, our dictionary, is full of all possible movements for a given letter in a string. So now we can say, let transformed equals our string dot map transform every letter, passing back the rot13.key of that string, with the default being the string itself. Now this thing means if we try and read something like an exclamation mark or a question mark or a full stop or a comma, something that isn't in our uppercase or lowercase dictionary, fine, that's okay, just pass it back whatever we got. So it'll handle any characters recognized by passing it back straight away. And now we can say transformed is going to be an array of characters, which is exactly what we want. We'll do return string of transformed. So convert that array of characters into a string and send it back. And that's the entire rot13 algorithm, as it were, right there in Swift. Now we're going to try and call that thing inside our code. So up here. So if you remember, we've got rot13 struct with a method called string. We can now say return rot13 dot string of our input, like that. I'll press Command R. Let's see if it works. Boom. So I'll say hello world. There's similar, there's Strikethrough, there's Zalgo, and there's rot13. Now you see URYYB, JBEYQ. If I copy that and paste it into here, it'll come back as hello world. That's the magic of rot13. What goes in always comes out. It's a wonderful, wonderful algorithm for doing simple things like spoilers. I don't know any good spoilers, I'm afraid, but let's face it. In Avengers Endgame, everyone dies at the end. Probably. I don't know. I've only ever seen like 2 Avengers films ever. I've got no idea what they're even about. So anyway, that's rot13 right there. So now we have a full program written with rot13, with similar text, with Strikethrough, with Zalgo, with the pasteboard, with segmented control, with 2 text fields, with agents, with a menu status item, with delegates and more. That's the end of our project. And it took us an hour and 10 minutes, plus some intro waffle and so forth. I think it's not bad, quite frankly, given that we made a full app from scratch. I should say, I do have a whole book on macOS. If you enjoyed macOS and you want to learn more about it, check out my book called Hacking with macOS. It is very good. It has lots of macOS projects. And if you liked that, go to this exact URL. I'll paste it into this chat window here. gum.co, gumroad.com/l/HWMacOS/Sundays, and you can save half off the price of that book for the next 48 hours. Maybe 72 hours if I'm feeling generous. If you want to do more macOS apps to look at much more macOS what it can do, table views, collection views, and more, go to that URL, snag the book. It's half off. I do half off sales very rarely, so there's your chance to buy that book at half price. That ends our project. If you have questions about macOS, about the project, about Flutter, about my awesome dogs, now is the chance for you to... Oh yes, and now's the chance for you to go ahead and ask your off-topic questions. Yes, Retting Me is pointing out, I can't wait to see your third time over the next few hours. Great, you can now do Zalgo. Please don't at me with your hilarious Zalgo text and your Strikethrough. At somebody else. Talk to your friends on Twitter somewhere. Don't at me into that. I have enough mentions as it is, quite frankly. So if you have questions about other stuff, now's your chance. Easy one from Pachi. What mouse do I use? I don't. I have a Magic Trackpad, which I'm not using right now because normally I have my mechanical keyboard, which sounds like a machine gun when I'm typing, and it doesn't work well on live stream. So I'm actually using my MacBook's keyboard right now with the MacBook Pro trackpad next to it. So I'm afraid it's a regular MacBook Pro trackpad for that one. Oscar, how do we share code with iOS and macOS properly? Well, good question. We have to see Apple launch shortly, because Apple might say Marzipan's amazing, in which case, hurrah, we can all switch to using Marzipan straight away for macOS stuff. They might say Marzipan is only fractionally better than what we had last year, in which case I suspect AppKit's going to last quite a few years yet, because they'll look great, things like our little macOS app up here. If Marzipan can't do that well, then I won't want to use Marzipan. I want to keep on using AppKit. It looks great. So we'll see what Apple announces soon. If in 3 months Marzipan's amazing, then fine, sharing code's trivial. If it's not, then you want to share things like model data. Now you can, of course, try and add bridges. You can say, hey, here's a type def that makes UI color work like NS color, or UI view controller, or NS view controller. You can do that. It's painful, and it usually bite you in the backside. So focus on things like model data and business logic. You saw how my methods here, I pass in a string and return a string. That is good shareable data, because that can be tested. You can write tests for that. Pass an A, B, C, get back, Cyrillic A, Cyrillic B, Cyrillic C, whatever it is. You can test that really easily. And it doesn't involve UIKit at all. So I prefer doing that if possible. It's a good idea. Next question. Could I tutorial about auto layout and animations? Maybe. I'd need a good project around it. At this point, I want to make full apps, even small apps. And I need a good reason to make an app about auto layout. It's a bit of a dull idea otherwise. Andy Warwick. Could you use NS view controller, UI view controller? Yes, you can. Is it Chameleon? Did that a long time ago? They added loads of type aliases between these things to map in the holes. Now, helpfully, that was made a long time ago. Helpfully, they've come together a lot closer. Every version of macOS has gone by. They've brought it closer and closer and closer to iOS, which has really been helpful. So now, actually, it isn't so hard to do those type aliases. Daryl Booth, a link for that hilarious Stack Overflow answer. No, I haven't, but I could probably find it in... it's something like Stack Overflow regex answer, like that, on Google, and you will find... There you are, boom. It's the first hit. This one here. That's the answer here. It is a true classic. True classic answer. I'll paste it into the chat window here so you can enjoy that in your own time. Thanks, Guy. I have no opinion on Flutter. I couldn't care less about Flutter. I genuinely couldn't care less. Do they plan putting in code from Sundays? Yes, I have a GitHub repo right now. GitHub, two straws, Swift on Sundays. That is the GitHub repo. It'll be on there shortly for this week. So go and check that out. Michael, MacBook keyboard. I keep hitting caps lock because I don't use this keyboard very much. I use it very rarely. Normally the Mac's in clamshell mode. I use my external mechanical keyboard nearly all the time. So it's weird for me going to this keyboard. I don't like it very much. So I hit things by accident all the time. Arvid, why do Zalgo characters appear on top of it rather than after it? Because they are combining characters. They're Unicode characters that do something special, like accents on cafe, for example. CAFE, the accent acute goes above the E. That's what it's designed to do. That's how the language looks. Same for letters in Swedish, for example, which you're more familiar with perhaps, or Norwegian. Any accent where there's letters above the letter, for example, have that same thing. Umlauts in German, diareses in English, like naive, go above the letter. So that's a Unicode combining character. And the way Zalgo works is it just stacks up dozens of combining characters onto the string to put it above and below, make it look evil. Can you publish menu bar apps with that window? Yes, you can. You can do whatever you like. Philip, it's down to you. Publish this app on the App Store if you want to. It's perfectly fine. You haven't got a window to go in the App Store. Aaron Edwards, have I used IG List Kit and my opinion on it? The only opinion I have on it, and it's a really small one, let's look it up on GitHub. They used to say, and it really wound me up, I'm not sure they said it perhaps, saying, I'll get excited guide. They disable preloading for collection views across the board. I never find it live in this thing. They disabled preloading the collection views, which is very annoying. And they disabled it because it broke their layouts. And great, I'm glad it broke Instagram's layouts. You turned it off. For most of us, it's really important as a performance optimization to get sort of ProMotion 120 Hz displays looking good. And that really annoyed me to turn it off for everybody because it annoyed them. That's the only view I have. That's the full extent of it. Matt Glover, do you need an Apple developer license? I think you do, yes. I think you've got to be a member of the Apple developer program to get it. As opposed to iOS, where anyone can launch that straight from the App Store. Blah, blah, blah. Next question. Currently a student in university, want to learn iOS, you want to learn Swift. You want to see the Hacking of Swift, 100 Days of Swift. It is completely free. Walks you through the Swift fundamentals, iOS fundamentals, free of charge, lots of videos, lots of review tests, some games here and there. I recommend that very much. Which switches do I have on my Mac mechanical keyboard? Cherry Blues. You are a man of taste, I can clearly see. I have Cherry Blues, so nice and springy. Bogdan, do I plan a core data project? Not currently. I think it's inevitable, quite frankly. At some point I have to do it. But it's just so boring. It's not fun. I'd rather go through, ARKit and more interesting things first before I do core data. So we'll see. Can I get a tutorial how to create PDF from rich text, i.e. attribute a string to PDF? Yes, sure. Let's see if I can do that for you live on the camera. Go to the knowledge base, type in PDF, how to render a string to PDF. Boom, we're done. There you go. Live on camera, live on a stream. That's your answer right there. So there you go. Yes, I can. Next question. Michael, why don't I use Carthage? Honestly, because CocoaPod's more popular. It comes down to the fact that when I'm choosing technology, for most of my listeners, most of my readers, they want to use whatever is the standard. And that's Xcode, it is Core Data, it's CloudKit, it is CocoaPods. And as soon as SPM finally gets iOS support, I'll move to SPM because I think most folks will do. Until then, not. Oh, hey, this reminds me, can you hear this big status bar happening right here? There's now a conference, my own conference happening here in July. All proceeds go to charity. So if you want to register, you want to come on to Hacking Swift Live 2019, you can buy your tickets live now on the site. It is 2 days. We announced our first speaker, our good friend Johnson Dell. He's speaking there. We announce new speakers once every week or so until the event starts. And it's going to be great. If you love Hacking Swift, you will love Hacking Swift Live. And again, it's all profits go to charity. So if you want to support a great cause, our charity is called App Camp for Girls. And they do such wonderful, wonderful work helping girls get into technology. So I recommend very much you come to the conference and support them. Advice to get ready for WWDC. Fly in early. Do not fly in Sunday ideally flying Friday. I'm flying on Friday. I wish I was flying Thursday or even Wednesday because you want to get over jet lag. If you know Apple folks, you can go and see them at Apple Park before WW starts, get some knowledge ahead of time. There are some wonderful social events that happen Sunday and Saturday. And if you've got jet lag, you will not want to go to them. So on Saturday is Course Sushi. That's amazing. On Sundays, SJ Mac Indie. That's amazing. So go to those. They're great fun. There's a James Dempsey, the Breakpoints. I recommend that very much. That's live near WWDC. Again, they support App Camp for Girls. Great charity. Thank you very much, James. So, yeah, recommended. Flying early. That's the number one thing you do. Second option, go to the labs, of course. Go with questions pre-prepared. Don't go and say, hey, how you doing? I've got an app here. Go with your code. Go with your radars and grab them, and don't let go till they've looked at your radar personally, because they will do if you badger them. The real trick, and I shouldn't really say this on a live stream, what you really want to do in the labs is to get their personal email address. And it's still apple.com. Like, you don't want their private email address. You want their email address at apple.com. Because then you can say, okay, I followed your instructions. Here's what happened. Here's the radar number. And then email it direct to them to bypass the triaging team. And it really cuts out a number of weeks. Because the problem with iOS releases is they announce it on June the 3rd. At that point, Beta 1's the one we have. Beta 2 is basically done. It's like a few days away from being shipping quality, because it's still got another 10 days of testing to go through before it actually hits us. So Beta 2 is kind of done. So the earliest you can expect to get things in, if you file a bug in WWDC week, is Beta 3, realistically Beta 4. And only usually 6 or 7, maybe even 8 if you're lucky, betas in the entire time frame. So you've got to be really, really fast. To be able to email blah, 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 at apple.com saying, here's my radar number, saves you a week, 2 weeks, however much time it is, and it really gets your stuff fixed much faster. So that's the real trick. I use that one a lot. Did I know my name is Greek? So I have a master's degree in classical studies. My dissertation was in Greek. It was on Aristophanes. So yes, I am quite actually good at Greek. Although I must say, useless Greek. It's Attic Greek. Do you need a certificate? I think so. You need at least an account, I think. Otherwise, I'm happy. Salman, will Apple launch Marzipan? I think so, yes. I think so, that's going to happen. Question is, they've had a year to refine it. How good is it going to be? I'm really hoping for a dramatic leap forward. Because things like news, it's all single window stuff. Home, you can't have multiple windows. It's really unpleasant right now. So whatever Apple figures out for the iOS 13 Tabs API, which is pretty much likely, I think. In fact, that was last week's Sort of Sundays, multi-screen apps. That thing, plus tabs, should mean Marzipan's in a great state. We're going to find out in a few months. Do I have any book for UI, UX? No, I don't, I'm afraid. No. There was one I was looking at, but I couldn't afford it. It came out as like $100. I'm like, I'm not paying that for a book on UI. Anyway. Is Sean coming? I don't think so. He lives a very long way away, and it's expensive. The problem is, if I fly someone out and their flight is $1,500, which his probably is from San Francisco, if not more than that, that's a lot of money. I can fly out someone from Europe for $200 and save $1,300. And I'm not being stingy. I want to fly folks out, but when it's going to charity, I want to make sure I get as much as I can to the charity. That's the point of it. If I end up giving them $500, it wasn't really worth the work. I could just give them that money, save all the work and the hassle, quite frankly. I'd rather donate thousands to them if possible. So I'm trying to be economical with my costs, let's put it that way. Michael, there is no CFP. I am hand-inviting people I know provide a nice, diverse array of backgrounds. So, women, men, and similar, a real variety of people will be there. And that's very kind. Thank you very much. Looking forward to seeing you there. There is no UI simple text print format for macOS. It's a real shame because it's a wonderful API. That thing there is macOS only, I'm afraid, which is a real shame. But if you go to bugreport.apple.com, please file a radar asking for that because it's important. And if you do that, I'll be very glad to see that because if you look on my radar, you'll see here, boom, filed 2017, 10/28, please bring this thing to macOS. So go ahead and say, File Radar, this is a dupe of that number there. Because Radar Bug Reporter works basically like a poll. The more folks ask for things, the more likely it is to rise up and get done. File Radar saying, please, this is a dupe of that. That's it. And you'll cast your vote in favor of getting that API macOS. It's a lovely API. Guy, you are indeed flying, obviously north rather than too much time difference. You've probably got like 4 hours time difference versus 8 or 9 for a lot of us. Sunday morning, Oscar. Oh, you're flying what, from the US presumably? You want to go and get your badge straight away. Do not try and get your badge on Monday. Don't do it. Go and get your badge straight away on Sunday, because that way it's done. You can get in line if you want to for the keynote, 2 a.m., 6 a.m., whatever you want to, how close to the front you want to be. Do not leave that till Monday. For many of our apps, for the launch a window which remains on screen after the user clicks away. No, you can control windows you like, it's fine. No problems. Well, I should say, actually, if you just disable the behavior transient, you'll get a pop-up that stays there all the time. Do I have Twitch? No, I don't. What about going to Sophia again? I'm not sure. I don't tend to plan that far ahead. I am doing fewer conferences this time. I'm probably not speaking at AltConf this year. I'm probably not speaking at Nextdoor this year because it was really intense last time. Dub-Dub's a busy week. You want to meet a lot of folks because it's expensive to get there. Everyone else comes to that same place for a week. You want to use that time. And last year I spoke at both Nextdoor and AltConf, and it was just too much. I was missing out on important meetings. So this year I'm probably going to scale that back. I might do a workshop there. I'm not sure. Waiting for AR. Good. Yeah, it'll happen. Aaron, I have no idea. I have no idea about what Apple may or may not do in the future. Apple are working on things for this Dub-Dub, next Dub-Dub, and almost certainly the year after as well. We've got no idea what's happening. Michael, I have no easy way of making that happen. It's surprisingly hard, which is very annoying. It's just the format isn't optimized. And the same for a UI kit as well. UI image getting pixelated out of that's not easy either. It's not pleasant. So I have no magic for that. Anyway, any more questions? Any idea how to start using the menu? Okay, using Force Touch. I have got no idea. Yeah, I've got no idea. Sorry. Have you used Code with Coordinator? No, I haven't. Coordinator is something I try and avoid. Honestly, I have apps which use databases, and I still honestly prefer to wrap them and use SQLite directly because I know what I'm doing. I feel really comfortable writing highly optimized SQL. I would bypass Coordinator. And it's a real shame. When you look at modern APIs for doing data, like Vapor, it is so much nicer than Coordinator. So Apple, to be fair, Coordinator is old, right? It's a really old set of APIs. It's one of the oldest core frameworks we still have in use heavily today. So hopefully that'll see the light and revamp that massively for Swift, because it's really unswifty. It's really horribly unswifty. Gears and idea, there you go. 9to5 Mac, you can find out when this declarative framework may or may not happen. In fact, it's almost time for me to unfollow 9to5 Mac on Twitter. I normally unfollow them sort of May time because I don't want any spoilers. I like hearing things live on stage. Hello. Oh, yeah, you've got both dogs. Okay. You can now meet both dog. Hey, both dogs. Good news. You've had 3 super chats so far. So one of you has 2, one of you has 1, I'm afraid. Because you get 3. Right. I'll show you a dog and see if you can guess which dog I'm showing you, because they look the same. For people who don't know what they look like. Come here. Come here. Come on. Come on. Come here. Come on. Come on. Come here. Get here, you bad dog. Get here. Right. Here is one dog. Oh. There we go. We've got a 4th super chat, so you can have 2 each. There you go. Good girl. So here's one dog. You can try and guess, is this Luna or the new dog? They look so similar. They really do. You get 2. You're a good girl. Yes, you are a good girl. This is actually Aria, the new dog. She looks very similar. She's a bit taller, and her face is whiter than Aria's. More sort of snowy white Samoyed. So there's that. And let's get... Oh, Luna, come on. Come on. Your turn. Oh. There we go. Boom. You can get 2 as well, because this one's from David. There you go. Was it luck? No. So we wanted another Samoyed because we thought she was the only Samoyed in the whole world. She's not, obviously. And this family who lives about 3 hours north of here had a Samoyed they couldn't keep anymore because they had a baby. And she's about the same age as Luna. She's 2 years as well. So we said, okay, listen, don't send her the pound. We'll take her and give Luna a friend. So we did. And now we have 2. So they are multiplying. Right. Actual questions. Opinion about Redux. Redux is very, very clever. I haven't seen it done particularly efficiently on Swift yet, but in the web world it's wonderful and, in fact, taking over, basically. So, having a play now, it turns out. Apple Maps and Stocks have a view that comes up from bottom of the draggable button. Any ideas how to do that? I don't know. I don't use it. You have to be more specific. I know what you mean, sorry. Can I tell the difference between the dogs? Yes, I can. They look different. Luna's got sort of slightly yellower cheeks, a bit smaller. Her bark's different. But yeah, they look the same basically for a lot of people who don't know these things too well. Yes, Stephen, Luna's definitely more accustomed to these treats. She knows the super chat time comes, and she comes along to get some treats. The other one's still learning, which is why she came with Luna. Jose, I'm glad you enjoyed it. You want to learn metal? Yes, I've got a great example book for metal. Let me load this up in Amazon. If you want to learn metal, because you obviously hate yourself, the book you want to read is this book here, The Metal Programming Guide by Janie Clayton. It's excellent. And there's stacks of detail in here about all of metal. You know, compute, 3 graphics, 3 games, and more. It's all in there. It's packed out with stuff. So go check that out. Are dogs related? No, they're not. They're not. They're very, very similar in age. Obviously look the same, but they're not related. But they are turning out to be friends. Do I have plans to update my classics apps? No, I don't. They still do very well by themselves, but I don't plan to update them. A bit of a distraction for me right now. Any more questions? Or are we done? Any more super chats? Got some more treats here for the dogs. Do I have a strong opinion on composing view controllers? Yes, do them. It's great. It's really important, in fact, adding child view controllers. And people ask you, do you prefer child view controllers or coordinators? I use both. They're both really important. And when I see folks tell me, oh yeah, I never use UI table view controller. I always use UI view controller and put a table view inside it. Those folks are normally the ones who don't use view controller composition very effectively. They have one massive view controller of all their stuff, rather than sort of a view controller here, table view controller in the middle, and then more below. So yeah, be careful of that. By the way, other folks, David Lindsay's quoting A Better MVC, which is the title of Dave DeLong's talk on those things. And he's very good at that kind of thing. We'll just talk. Have I talked to Ray while we competition? Yeah, I talked to Ray. We talked to him on I think it was a Skype or Hangout about a month ago. We talked for like an hour and a half, exchanging ideas, exchanging feedback, and suggestions and so forth. We get on just fine. We don't compete at all. I don't think anyone really competes in our space, you know. I don't think anyone says, oh yes, I only buy Hack and Swift books or I only buy ObsCIO books. People buy the books they need to help them solve problems. And most folks will buy books from a number of places. It's not really a zero-sum game. So yeah, go and buy Ray's books, buy my books. I don't mind. But it helps you out. Pawan, I think you have to have an active Apple developer account to make macOS apps. I think. Can I provide links to my apps? I can actually. I've been futzing today, trying desperately to finish up Unwrap. It's on GitHub. This is an app that teaches you Swift on your iPhone. That's the source code for it right there. I'm busy trying to make a page for it so I can actually finally launch it with information and screenshots and stuff. And it's a lot of hassle, of course it is. Anyway, that's an example app. It's quite large, but there's lots in there to read. You can read my code and steal my code. Do I have any content and child view controllers? I have simple content, like here's how you do it. I haven't got more advanced content, like, you know, when to do it, when not to do it. Yeah, Dave likes Zibs. Dave likes Zibs. Dave has been doing macOS and iOS for a long time. He's been was at Apple for a long time. He does like Zibs very much, and that's fine. You know, I don't really care what you do at that point. I prefer a visual layout tool, whether that's storyboards or Zibs. Beyond that, you know, whatever floats your boat. Do I have an opinion on Clean Swift? No, I am disinterested. I couldn't care less. Generally, I have no interest. Recommend some cool pods? No. That's not a question. Michael, is my site built on Vaporkatura? No, it's not. It's written entirely in PHP because it's much easier and much faster than either of those two. Where do I load JSON in Unwrap? So in Unwrap, I have the same extension which we used in, I don't know, which of our previous Sundays things in here. It's an extensions in bundle loading. And this loads any kind of JSON you like from the app bundle directly into an array of things. So it's done there using that bundle. And that's a much nicer way of doing it. Don't do it the forced unwrap way of doing it in my code here. Do it a nice way like that. For a music player, what would I approach to caching tracks? Do you mean caching the MP3 or AAC data, or I have played Welcome to New York by Taylor Swift? Because if you're caching AAC or MP3 or similar data, or FLAC perhaps, do not put it in SQLite or core data. That's both the wrong place for it. Write to disk and then link it somewhere else in a file or SQLite core data and so forth. Link only the file name of the cache. Don't put that into a database. It's the wrong place for such binary blob data. Don't put it there. Class or structs? Structs. Odd question. Structs. Okay, it is now 20 minutes to 8. I'm going to drink my glass of wine, and it's your last chance to ask any questions. How popular do you think Flutter will be? I've got no idea. Honestly, not very popular. I mean, React Native is still a rounding error, quite frankly. People have tried it and usually run away screaming. It's very clever. I love the way React works. I love the architecture. React Native is problematic. I expect Flutter to be the same. Kotlin on Android, Swift on iOS, macOS, tvOS, watchOS are fantastic. Why would you not want that? Flutter will always be, I feel, a fairly small language until eventually I expect Google will kill it because they get bored of it. That's what's happened elsewhere. Julio, a number of folks have asked me that, and I always write back saying, what do you think has changed? I mean, what has changed in the books for Swift 5 that makes you want to update it so fast? Because the answer is almost nothing's changed. Swift 5 is nearly entirely additive. There were no overlay changes because it wasn't a WWDC release. It's mostly new things like raw string support and similar. So I'm in no big rush to do a Swift 5 update because realistically it's just basically scratch out Swift 4.2 in the cover and put up a 5 version, which feels weird. So I'm just not particularly keen on doing that. Nothing's changed realistically. So I don't know when, but whenever. Okay, invite for the Slack channel, of course, of course. Let's have a look. Invite people. Share invite link. Copy invite link. Paste into the channel. There we go. That is our link. It hasn't changed. That link should be fixed, so you can use that wing well. Storyboard versus coding programmatically. Use both. It's not a versus. It's a matter of which one's easier, which one's better. And I use both a lot. So do whichever works best for you. Yami Yugi advised way after 100 days. I'll be providing an epilogue when the thing finishes. Day 101 will be an epilogue day where I say, here's what's next. So you can follow on from there. Can I test a book? Well, what's wrong with 100 Days of Swift? Reflecting me. I can't be any clearer. If you want to learn Swift right now, this is the absolute best way I have to learn Swift. It's day by day breakdowns of exactly how Swift works with comprehensive tests behind it. You can say, here's day one on closures, learn how they work, then do a test with lots of questions and say, is this valid or not? Again and again and again. And when it's right, it'll tell you why it's right. When it's wrong, it'll tell you why it's wrong and similar. So you can go through and learn. So I recommend that very much. Use that. Best way to reduce your main view controller file. If you look on Google for hacking with Swift massive view controller and choose this first article here, in fact there's a few of them you can see, how to write massive view controllers. This is a blow by blow breakdown of how to centralize code, strip out model code, get off data sources, views in code and similar. That's an example there of how to see exactly how to slim down your view controllers there as a project with a real code behind it. There's a part 3 here which is very similar, getting code out there and other stuff. As coordinates as well is very important. Please use that. I'll link that to you as well. Boom. Check that out. There's stacks ways of doing it, and I've tried to document as many as I can online. What book would recommend for someone who wants more advanced stuff? So Pro Swift is really the best follow-on book you can get your hands on because it is all about things like generics and operator overloading and protocol orientation and similar techniques to really help you write better Swift, Swifty Swift as it were. So that's the best book I have, and it's full of videos too. There's lots and lots of videos in there on Pro Swift. So go and check that out. I'll link that in here as well. After that, if that's too easy for you, which is unlikely, but if it was too easy for you, is Swift Design Patterns, which goes into even more detail on how things like MVC should work or MVVM should work, how to get archiving into there, how to get protocols into there and similar, how to really design and architect great apps. That's sort of the third book in the series of that thing, for example. Gemund, will I do 100 Swift for each version of Swift? No. The 100 Days of Swift is updated for Swift 5 already. It's all written for Swift 5. And it's not going to change, let's face it, in the future, so it's good to go for a long time. If they change something in Swift 6, which is very unlikely if they did, I'll just change out that one chapter, put a new one in, and boom, we're done. Do I recommend a good Swift LDAP library? No, I don't. I've got no idea. I haven't used LDAP in a long time. So no, I can give you no Swift LDAP recommendations. Am I a wine snob or do I get whatever's cheapest? So that's a false dichotomy. There's a big spectrum in between. In my instance, I happen to be a wine snob. I have very little wine, like maybe 4 or 5 glasses a week. So a bottle will last me, most of a week. I have a posh wine decanter that creates a vacuum, so I can keep a wine bottle open all week without going sour. So it lasts me a few days, unless I have friends, and of course, which it lasts me about 20 minutes. So I can happily drink some good wine. Oh, David gives me $2. Fortunately, Ari is still here. Oh no, Luna's arrived as well. I'm getting a face from Luna now. I only have one treat. Which dog wants it more? And I think Oh yeah, because you had some last week. Okay, Moochie. Oh yeah, come in. No, hey, no, not you. Get off. No, come on, Arya. Up. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here, you nitwit. Come on. Forget Luna. You come up here. Sorry, they both want the treat. I only have one treat, I'm afraid, so you can have that one, Arya. Okay, good girl. You in a minute, maybe we'll see. Okay. Blah blah blah. Am I a Fulham fan? No, I couldn't care less. Sorry, Luna. Maybe next time. Okay. You had yours though, Arya. Okay, that is now just gone 7:45. Any more questions? Running out of time. Last chance, at least until next week, to ask me. So go ahead and ask away. Any more questions? The treats price don't go up. It's one treat per super chat, I guess. That's the only rule I have. What's next week? Aaron and I have no idea. I kind of figure out in the middle of the week, often on Thursday, what I feel like doing. Because the thing is, I've got to be excited about it. Otherwise, I don't want to talk about it, quite frankly. So if right now macOS, I thought, yeah, I feel good about that now. Let's do macOS. Maybe, I don't know, watchOS something next week or tvOS. I don't know. We'll find out in the middle of the week what I feel like doing because it's got to be driven by my interests. Otherwise, it's very boring and no one wants that. Did I git push live on YouTube? No, I did not. I'm smarter than that. I'll wait until I finish the stream and then push it up there. Camille, that kind of question is best asked on Slack. Any more questions? Well, it's not infinite free content. There is a limit to my free content. I do try and do as much as I can because I'm in a position to do so. But ultimately, I do have to pay for, my kids' clothes, my dog's food, mortgage and similar. So hopefully buy some books now and then would be quite welcome. Next podcast is actually very soon. We're doing it tonight. I've got an hour or two break after this stream. And then it's on to the podcast with Sean. So, yes. With the rise of software as a service, how will iOS be affected? I don't think it's going to be affected realistically. I mean, it'll be a long time, I think, until iOS apps get replaced with actual, instant apps style Android stuff. So I'm not in a concern at all for at least the next 5 to 10 years. And even then it might not happen. So we're going to see where it gets to. What is interesting is the rise of decent backends. Things like Pars from Facebook kicked off a whole new world. The idea of having this platform as a service was very interesting. And now we have CloudKit from Apple, which is very cool and mostly free. So that does help us because we can make backends to our apps trivially with no extra work. Of course, you can write your own Vapor, but there's an old saying, code you buy is a tool, code you write is a liability. So code you write in Vapor, will it work in Vapor 4, Vapor 5, Vapor 6? Who knows? It's a liability, so it's painful. What do I think about RX Swift or Bond? I think they're interesting, and I toy with them when I have the chance, but it's one of those things that people expect me to get Apple's way of solving problems because they've come to the Apple community. They want to learn iOS from Apple's platform viewpoint. And RX Swift, until Apple adopt it as a standard, which I think they won't do ever, it's not really terribly mainstream enough for me to care about for my job. I'm going to watch Game of Thrones tonight, tomorrow, or never. I stopped watching, I think, 2 years ago because it was just nothing's happening. It was going around in circles. And I thought, well, I've committed many hours of my life here. I don't want to commit another 30 or 40 to this. I'm going to just stop watching. So I have no idea what's happening in Game of Thrones at this point. So, what backend recommend for mobile apps? That's a big question. Try CloudKit. See if CloudKit solves your problem for you. If it does, brilliant. It's mostly free. If not, look at something like Vapor and see if that helps you out. Hello, Luna. I know. I'm sorry. There's no more treats. I'm afraid. Sorry. If not, look at Vapor or Katura. See if they work for you, and then try it out. Do I still think indie iOS devs can survive from the App Store? Yes. There is lots and lots of money to make from the App Store. I still make. Someone asked earlier about some of my classics apps for Latin and Greek students. They still pay for my mortgage, and I released them. I don't know, 6 years ago first. My best-selling app hasn't changed in 3 years. It doesn't even support the iPhone 10 style app yet, but it's still extremely popular. You've got to find your area, your niche, occupy it, rule it, and do well in that area. Make 1-2 good apps rather than sort of 20 bad apps. Athan asks, how do you check apps with different designs for iPad and iPhone? What you do is you make an app. Here, I'll do it live on the screen. I'll do an iOS app, choose single view app, and call this thing Athanas. Over here on my desktop. What you do is you go to your main storyboard and you add some sort of layout in here. I'm going to say let's make a view like that, which will be pinned to all edges like that. Boom. I'll add some constraints to that so it stays on all 4 corners like that. And I'll color it red so we can see it more clearly on the screen. So red. You then go to the Assistant Editor and change automatic to be preview and choose main.storyboard preview. And now it'll show you what that thing looks like in an iPhone XR. You then press plus down here and select any other device you like. Like show it to me in an iPad Pro 9.7 inch, whatever, full screen. And it'll show you how it looks over there as well. So you can have both layouts side by side. Obviously my screen's a bit low res right now for this stream. But here is an iPhone XR, here is an iPhone whatever portrait, and then rotate the landscape. That's how it looks in landscape. So you can see all your layouts simultaneously on all devices like that. As you make small changes, it updates straight away. So you can add as many of these things as you want. I've had an iPhone 4S, for example, a really tiny little device down here. Boom, there we go. So it lets you see exactly how your design should look instantly across all devices. So that's how I do it. I recommend it very highly. You want to learn Swift? What's the best bootcamp? I have no idea. I can't recommend a bootcamp. I know that Lambda's popular right now. Is Treehouse good? Maybe. I've never tried it. I used to know the owner, Brian. Nice guy. But, I mean, try Hundreds of Swift. I mean, it's free online. It's full of videos, full of tests and similar. So give it a try. If that doesn't work for you, then pay for it. Find out. Simple guy, I have no plans for doing reactive Swift tutorials right now, I'm afraid. Sorry. Can I pinch out like that? You want to see them all at once? There you go. Does a Power Pack contain design patterns? No, it does not. The Power Pack contains my first 6 books, but it does not include design patterns. I don't add new books later on if I can avoid it. So it causes problems. But it's available separate to buy. Is Chordator hard to learn? Not hard. I mean, if you go to the Hacking with Swift, you'll find it in like Project 38 down here somewhere. Boom. This one here is Chordator here. We go through all the sort of fundamentals of Chordator right there in one project. So it's not terribly hard. It's just weirdly unswifty. It's clearly not designed for Swift. And so it works in bizarre ways. So I wouldn't recommend it personally, but if you like it, like it. Is it important to have a college degree to get a job? Can you get a job by self-learning Swift? You can probably get a job just by self-learning Swift. I wouldn't recommend it. It's not what I recommend. I don't think Swift's enough. Because the problem is, college degrees, I've got a degree in computing science, right? And you learn lots of theory, lots and lots of theory about how things work and why they work that way. And it's tempting to say, I just want to write code. I don't want to learn about big O notation, for example, or what hash maps are, or how binary works, whatever it is. And that's fine. But what you'll find is it's very hard to progress in your career. You'll make a lot of fundamental mistakes, things that wouldn't have happened if you had a college degree behind you. You'd learn different ways around it. Now, I'm not saying you have to have a college degree. What I'm saying is, if you don't want to have a college degree, that's fine, but don't just learn Swift. By saying, I want to get a job without a degree, that's fine, but you're committing yourself to self-learn all the other things you would have learned on the degree that matter. You know, how do distributed systems work, for example? How do they work? You know, what's a heterogeneous environment look like, for example? Things like that matter. And you get taught those at university. And if you don't want to go, that's fine. If you want to save the money, that's fine. But you've got to still learn those things at some point. They'll still put in the extra work to learn those things, not just code. Because there's more to programming than there's more and more code. If I said to someone, you know, if I said to my daughter, she's 9, what are the differences between an array and a set? She'll say, sets are faster, sets can't have duplicate elements. She knows, because I've taught her the theory between arrays and sets, about hashing and not hashing. She's aware of that. And that matters. And that's true across any language. It's not a Swift thing. So it's not about learning Swift, it's about learning computer science, is what matters. You want to go and learn some computer science, not just how do I write apps in UIKit. Because in 10 years' time, or heck, in 1 year's time, UIKit could disappear. And then what do? You've got to be able to have a long-term career behind this. Will be unit tests in 100 days Swift? No, there won't be. Do I like unit tests? Yes, I do. Unit tests are amazing. And I love the fact that I can make huge changes to my software. Massive. I can rip out all the internals, Although my tests pass before and pass afterwards, boom, it worked. That's the power of unit tests. I feel no fear with my app when I have good unit tests behind me, so I don't use them all the time. If you look at, you know, the unwrapped source code, workspace, boom. Oops, too big. Shrink that down. There we go. Or not. Okay, you want to shrink for me, please? There we go. Bring it down. You'll see stacks of tests in here. I love writing tests for this stuff because they really matter. You know, it loads content. This does extensions. There's practice test stuff. There's loads of these. More tests here, new tests and similar. It matters because you want to make sure it all works correctly. I use them all the time. What do I think about Golang for backend? I have no views on it. I couldn't care less. Boot camps do matter. The thing is, a boot camp is just doing self-teaching, right? A boot camp, most folks will do, say, Lambda. The majority do it remotely. They don't go to Salt Lake City. They want to stay where they are, wherever they are in the world, and learn from their house doing Lambda. And they're remote. They're doing home learning again. Give them stuff to read it, do a test, write some code, get feedback, and so forth. The only difference is they are held accountable by the boot camp. You know, their instructor will mark their code. They'll say, you're not doing very well, you're doing excellently, whatever it is. They're held accountable to continue, which is amazing. Because if you're a self-learner who struggles to self-motivate to be held accountable and similar, then you'll have a very, very hard time doing self-learning because you're going to not really pay attention to it. You're not really work hard. You won't stick with it. You'll drop out. You'll miss bits out. You'll skip things over and similar. And that's unhelpful. So ideally, what you want to do is, if that is you, if you have got the lack of accountability, go to a boot camp. And Lambda are very good. They're very cool and very modern because they have a wonderful payment scheme where you only pay back afterwards once you earn a certain amount of money. They will actually give you a stipend to pay your way while you're in Salt Lake City if you want to go to in person. You get accommodation, so it helps. And they also nearly always have a recruitment team at the end to help get folks into jobs, paying some amount of money. So they're very keen to have their folks hired. Is my wine dry or fruity? It's fruity. I quite like fruity wine. I am the wrong person to ask about boot camps. I've never been to one. I don't plan to go to one. I've done the reviews of them. So just Google iOS boot camp with your country name after it and just look through this, all of them. I can't recommend one, I'm afraid. I want a property to be different when it's an iPad and when it's an iPhone. Easier with table view. So you need to be awfully careful. Hash available isn't what you're looking for. Hash available is for checking API availability, not for doing idiom checking, which is iPhone, iPad stuff. Realistically, you need to be awfully careful there. Apple does not want you to think about iPhone and iPad. Right, this is iPhone layout, this is iPad layout. They do not want you to think about that. They want you to think about size classes. Because in iPad, even iPad Pro, in split screen, if you pull the split all the way to one side, your app is basically the size of an iPhone running there. If you say, oh, I'm on an iPad still, which you still technically are, you'll have the wrong table view size. You want to think about, am I in a regular width screen or a compact width screen using size classes? And if you're using storyboards for that, which I expect you probably are, then you can add size classes variations to your stuff. You can say this plus button here, I want to have in compact, regular, whatever, P3, variation is going to be some other color. And do that for your various auto layout constraints. Because that way you can make one layout work great on iPhone or iPad, but also iPad, split view, and similar. And you'll see actually down here in the Assistant Editor preview mode, you'll see you can actually show how does split view work, how does split view 1/3 work. And I'll add it into my list, and that's it running there. That's iPad Pro 12.9 split view 1/3, and it's about the size of an iPhone, as you can see, It's like an iPhone 10. So I recommend you think about that rather than exact sizes. Much better idea. Do I listen to music while programming? Yes, I do, Ryan. I love listening to music while I program. Although I don't get really good value for money from my Spotify playlists, I tend to listen to the same songs again and again and again. That is unhelpful because I could just bought them a long time ago and saved my $15 a month family program for Spotify, which I've had for a number of years now, probably about 8-9 years now, 7 years. So sadly, I listen to the same songs again and again. Many of which aren't on Spotify. So I'm a big fan of video game music, and in particular, I don't know why, on YouTube, I love listening to the Theme Hospital soundtrack. I don't know why. I played that a lot. I played a lot of hours in that game when I was a kid, so it brings back memories, that one. I listen to that quite a lot. I listen to the Transport Tycoon soundtrack, again. Spent way too many hours listening to playing that game, so I wasted a lot of my life playing that. So the soundtrack's in my brain. I love the Age of Empires 2. There you are, 2 soundtrack. That one a lot. Listen to that a heck of a lot as well. Great soundtrack. Right now, actually, in Spotify, if you look, you'll see it's playing the Diablo 2 soundtrack. So yeah, lots of video game music in there. Otherwise, I listen to a lot of opera. Big fan of opera music, particularly Verdi. So you see lots of Verdi in here. Yes. So music, yes. Okay, that is now 5 minutes past 8. This is your last, I mean it, chance to ask questions about the stream, or whatever you want to do, really. I've now finished my wine. I've become grumpy when the wine glass is empty. So ask away. Do I think Apple will improve the iTunes API? Unlikely. I mean, it kind of works. It's good enough as it is. So yeah, I doubt it. Project Pitchfork. What is that? Is that in Spotify? Project Pitchfork. Oh yeah. What do they do? Volcano. They sound angry. I'll think about it. I'll listen to it and see what I do. My Spotify profile, no. When we drive somewhere, like today we're at Western Burt, the Arboretum, I plug my phone in, CarPlay, I put Spotify on, and the kids always ask for the Sophie 2.0 playlist, which is the kids' playlist of their favourite songs. And it's things like Hardcore Vibes from June, there's some Prodigy, there's some Skrillex. It's a real mix of stuff from the kids in here. So no, I don't really want this appearing on my Spotify shared playlists, quite frankly. So no, I will not share my Spotify details on there. Which wine? So normally I drink a Malbec. Normally, today it's a Bordeaux. It's a bit stronger. Yeah, there you go. Okay, 2 minutes more, and I'm signing off to go and play with my dogs and get ready for the podcast. What do I think about machine learning? I think it's brilliant. It's out of the blue for Apple to launch this in iOS 11. And it's huge and accelerating quickly. And we covered machine learning recently. In fact, I did a video, Switch on Sundays on that recently. Because, is there a playlist for that perhaps? Yeah. I learned with a core ML app in Swift. That's there. That goes through from scratch, training a new model using CreateML, put it into iOS using Core ML, and getting it out there. I also released a video recently, which is a talk I did in Romania last year. They are Create ML for Everyone. I highly recommend you watch that video. It's a funny video. It's a silly video. I'll give you a link for that. And I'll see what you think of that, because that's a good video. I spent a long time making that video, as you will see when you watch it. I don't want to spoil the surprise. I've got a lot of time with Skrillex, Mihail. Skrillex is perfectly fine. I also compare Apple Music. Ryan Feldman. I don't get Apple Music. That's why I haven't got a HomePod. I use Spotify the entire time. It annoys me that I can't play on other devices like HomePod. I've got Mac. I've got Apple TV. I've got Watch. I've got AirPods. I've got the Works iPad. But I don't want HomePod because of a lack of Spotify support. I think it's actually deeply wrong that Apple are doing what they do. That's a whole other issue. 1 minute, folks, and I'm signing off. Last chance now. Oh, tweet from Guy Rambo. Apple's spoiler season starts tomorrow. Be sure to configure Twitter filters properly. What do I have to block? What do I have to block? I don't want to block out all the spoilers. I want to know what to block. Maybe all of 9 to 5 Mac, perhaps. I'm going out there. I'll be at the keynote. I want a surprise of the new stuff. It's great fun for me. I don't want spoilers. All right, folks. I think that's me done for the evening. Thank you very much for coming. It's been a pleasure. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I hope you learned something new. If you want to ask more questions, you can, of course, ask on the Slack. I've posted a link above earlier. You can tweet me at 2straws. Please like the video. Go and like the video. I work so hard at these things. It's all free of charge. If you enjoyed the stream, like the video, tell your friends on social media, encourage them to come, because it all helps me widen the audience and reach more folks, which in turn encourages me to make more videos like this one. So you're helping yourself really, but it helps me too. Please do that. I am 2straws on Twitter. If you want to ask questions there, please do. I'll post this code to GitHub imminently, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes or so. It'll get there shortly. Otherwise, I will see you on Twitter or Slack or even email if you want to by the other ways. Otherwise, I'll see you around. Take care.